The All Blacks are back in the most hostile of environments against a team with everything to play for to atone for their loss in the Rugby World Cup last year. The All Blacks came up trumps. They delivered their best performance of the year. And crucially, the All Blacks' fading aura that everyone talks about just got a big injection of vitality. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the key stats, go over the turning points in the game, and also give you my MVP of the match. Let's get to it, guys. Now, things were spicy even before kickoff because the All Blacks picked Reiko Ioane to lead the Haka. Of course, we remember the controversy, those post-match comments against Sexton after that Rugby World Cup quarterfinal, which I don't condone, by the way. I don't like bad sportsmanship. But nevertheless, Reiko was leading the Haka. You got the feeling that that had the crowd's blood boiling, as if it wasn't already. And the response from the Irish was great. They advanced towards the Haka, pure theatricality. Respect shown by both sides, absolutely loved it. And then in minute 1 of the game, we got some signs of what was coming. Cortez Ratama shaped for a box kick, charged down, and you just thought, here it comes. Here comes that famous Irish line speed. That led directly to a Will Jordan knock-on, and you got the feeling that Ireland was going to put the All Black skills under real pressure if they kept coming off the line that fast. There was a scrum, and even in the very first scrum, I made a note. All Black scrum looking rock solid. In the 7th minute, we got an indication of where the referee's head was at. He knew this was going to be a big kicking contest, and he actually penalised Jordie Barrett, who seemingly held his line as he retreated towards a big bomb from the Irish, but apparently he was blocking the Irish kick chase, and the referee called a penalty. Now, pretty aggressive penalty. Maybe it's a 50-50, probably depends whether you're a Kiwi or if you're from Ireland. But what that signaled to me was that the ref understood that both teams are really going to be trying to use their kicking game to win this match. They're going to want to play territory. They're going to want to be putting a lot of pressure on with high balls. So he was not going to stand for any kind of ill discipline. So I took that one on the chin. Between minutes 10 and 15, there were real signs that the Irish line speed was causing problems. The All Blacks were getting suboptimal ball. In the 15th minute, I made a little note. The All Blacks are getting SHIT ball. Cortez Ratama was fighting hard, but he was under all kinds of pressure around the ruck today. It was nasty in there. It was scrappy. Clearly, the Irish thought if they could put pressure on in the ruck zone, it was going to go a long way towards securing the victory. But there were some pretty promising signs on attack from the All Blacks. And by the 20th minute mark, you started to get the feeling that the All Blacks were looking likely. They were beginning to find space on attack. Now, both teams had a lot of handling errors, but it seemed that the Kiwis were maybe a little bit better with the wet pill. In the 25th minute, the All Blacks had a pretty clean kill shot lined up. They got a penalty. They went for a line out in the 22. Unfortunately, Asafo Amua not straight with his throw-in. That was a bit of a letdown, definitely a reprieve for the Irish. But here's the thing about Asafo Amua. That was really his only fluffed throw of the day. He was excellent in his throwing into the line out, and I am so happy about that. This was a coming-of-age performance. It's a coming-of-age tour for him. A lot of you probably thought that Ireland was going to dominate in the lineouts. Let's not let emotion color it. Let's look at the cold, hard stats. Lineout wins, All Blacks 89%. Ireland 70%. Not a lot of people called that. Asafo Amua was very good with his darts today. The line-out lifted a lot compared to the performance against England, which was kind of scrappy last week. And it wasn't just the line-out functioning well. Now the scrum was really coming into its own. In the 27th minute, the All Blacks got a crucial scrum penalty. You just felt like this was huge. This was starting to sap a little bit of self-belief out of the Irish. It was happening over and over again. This wasn't an anomaly. The All Blacks appeared to have the wood at scrum time. This is going to become absolutely crucial later in the game, so hold that thought. As their morale started to take a little bit of a visible dip, the Irish also started making mistakes. No arm tackles, high tackles. Let's look at the penalty count for a second here. Penalties conceded, 13-5. What's that old adage of rugby? If you're over 10 penalties, you're probably going to be in the L column. Ireland, lots of errors. And in fact, I said in my prediction, if the All Blacks commit as many defensive errors against Ireland as they did against England, they're going to be losing today. Well, it was a little bit of a role reversal. It was the Irish making the defensive mistakes misreads, ill discipline, and generally speaking, the All Blacks were more clinical in that space. Big improvement from last week. In the 34th minute, the All Blacks actually picked off an Irish line-out. That was surprising, but great to see. That was a sign that the team was growing in confidence. They started to pick and go more. They started to punch holes around the ruck instead of going wide. Cortez Ratama sniped more than he did last week. Now, I know I mentioned he was under all kinds of duress when he was trying to get the ball out of the ruck, but in general, I actually thought he had a good game. You're against the world number one. It's going to be tough out there, but I thought he straightened the attack pretty well. And actually, the All Blacks looked more dangerous when he was sniping, when he was taking the ball to the line a little bit more. Everything was starting to click. The All Blacks went into the halftime break just a couple of points up, but you got the feeling it was going to open up at some point in the second half, but the All Blacks were going to have to weather a storm. Jordie Barrett copped a yellow card just before halftime for a high shot. Look, there was some head contact. It was minimal. It obviously didn't get upgraded to a red. Okay, I'll take that one on the chin as a Kiwi. Obviously, there was no intent if you look at it, but it's just one of those split-second decisions that didn't go our way. And really, the next 10 minutes were the hardest passage from a New Zealand perspective. The Irish came out after the break absolutely fired up. It was a totally different game for 10 minutes. The Irish rode penalties to get down into the New Zealand 22. They put on a nice rolling maul, but it was shut down. It got stuffed by the All Blacks. That was a theme all night. The Irish could not get purchase on their rolling maul. It was somewhat reminiscent of the scrum. No go forward. You had the ref calling for them to use it each time it got stopped. But nevertheless, the All Blacks were under territorial pressure. Sam Cane got the ball out of this rolling maul, but he was forced down over his own try line by a green army of defenders. Now we have the Irish scrumming 5 meters from the All Blacks try line, and eventually the pressure told. They were just hammering in the All Blacks red zone for too long. Ultimately, it was Van der Fleer from Ireland who cut back beautifully on a short ball from his halfback, got the ball down on the line. The crowd was in raptures. They were ecstatic. It looked very scary from a Kiwi perspective there. You felt like the tide was turning, but it turned out to be a false dawn. The All Blacks were able to just stay in touch and not concede any more points with a man still on the sideline. And in fact, they got a penalty. Damien McKenzie stepped up in the 48th minute. The ball fell off the tee with seconds remaining. And D-Mac, cool as a cucumber, he put the ball back on, he quickly went through his routine again, and he slotted the kick. This moment here was a microcosm. This showed you the zone that D-Mac was in mentally. We're going to talk about him more later. But to me, that little moment was telling. He was on top of his game. In the 50th minute, Jordie Barrett returned from his stint in the naughty boy chair. Cam Roigard came on as well. Clearly, Razor felt he was going to get more out of his premier halfback, who I think after this game has jumped to number one clearly and must start against France. And not only that, there were changes happening on the other side too. Jack Crowley, the number 10 for Ireland, who'd been a little bit quiet but solid, came off. Kieran Frawley came on. Some of you may not know him. He's a fantastic player. He's the one who kicked that winning drop goal against the Springboks in Durban in Game 2. Something he's also done for his club. As it turns out, this wasn't his night. The theme of change continued. In the 60th minute, the All Blacks took off their two props, Lomax and Tamaiti Williams. On came Basilio Tosi and Ofa Tuangafasi. Immediate scrum destruction. The All Blacks did not lose a thing bringing on these new players. If anything, it felt like the scrum went up a gear. If we look at the scrum win percentage, okay, neither scrum was perfect. Ireland got 70%, the All Blacks got 80%, but sometimes it's about when you put on the big shove. And let me tell you, when there were really critical scrums, NZ had the edge all night. In the 63rd minute, off another dominant scrum, finally Talea broke clean, and you just started thinking, the black wave is coming. It didn't turn into a try, but the pressure led to Ireland conceding a penalty. Damien McKenzie stepped up again, and now the score was 13-18 with New Zealand in the lead. And then in the 68th minute, the defining play of the game, the All Blacks broke through. They took Ireland coast to coast. In the end, Will Jordan skidded in for a try that absolutely broke the hearts of the fans and the Irish players. But it was a long time coming. The All Blacks had been building to this for literally an hour. Let's take my patriotic emotion out of it. Let's look again at the stats. Line breaks, 9-1. You cannot spin that any other way. New Zealand created more opportunities, and eventually you knew they were going to finish one. Look at the meters made, 690 to 420. And let me tell you, the post-contact meters were definitely in the All Blacks' favor too. Sometimes we've seen the All Blacks able to counterattack, use their backline to pull a try out of nowhere. That is not what happened today. That's what I'm most satisfied about. They built this win gradually. They chipped away, and eventually they broke through clean. When Kieran Frawley knocked the ball on cold in the 70th minute, you just felt like the Irish were cracking psychologically. Perhaps all the pressure of the build-up, all that public pressure to atone for the Rugby World Cup, perhaps that wasn't the best thing for these players. You got to remember, a lot of them were coming in without many minutes of rugby. This is a great Irish team, but were they underdone? Perhaps. Here's the thing though. Everyone's been talking about the All Blacks' killer calendar this year. This is one of the most brutal calendars I've ever seen in the professional era. 14 games this year, including back-to-back games against the South Africans at home, the world champions. Just an absolutely unforgiving schedule. But what you saw today was that the All Blacks were battle-hardened, and the Irish looked a little bit cold. Now, I will concede, if you played this game a few weeks from now, when the Irish were humming, when they were warmed up, when they were really match fit, you might get a different result. But to be honest, with the calendar that the All Blacks have had to deal with, perhaps a little bit of luck was actually deserved. And the fact that this was the first up game for the Irish, maybe that helped the All Blacks. But I'll tell you what, they put their foot on the throat and they finished strong. There were still more twists and turns to come, though. James Lowe from Ireland, the winger, he kicked, I'm going to say maybe the most beautiful 50-22 I've ever seen. He was right on his touchline. He put a banana kick in. So it bounced in and out. This was genius, absolute genius. He turned to the crowd. They came alive. There was still hope. Maybe the Irish can pull it back. And now Ioane was on the field, that talismanic leader for the Irish. Oh my God, we're going to have to really weather a final onslaught here if we're going to win. But the theme of the day was that the Irish were not good enough to finish their opportunities. They were hot on attack. It looked like they had the All Blacks stretched in their 22, but the Irish overran their man on support. Irish player isolated at the breakdown. Adi Savia comes in, wins the penalty. Wow, that was huge. In the end, the All Blacks held on to win by 10 points, 23-13. You will take that all day, every day in Dublin, particularly in a game that had such a febrile atmosphere. I can't remember seeing a crowd this amped up in Dublin ever, really. I mean, it was just a feral environment in the best way possible. I absolutely loved it. One of the great places on earth to play rugby. But the All Blacks were in an absolute cauldron, comparable to Ellis Park in Johannesburg. I mean, these boys were really in the hot seat, but they showed ice in their veins today. I don't want to get carried away. I don't want to hype this up too much, but I am emotional. This has been a tricky few years as an All Black fan. They have not been at their best. Everybody's telling us these are not the All Blacks of old. This is not vintage All Black stuff. And I agree, we're not at the level of the Richie McCaw, Dan Carter era. But today, for the first time this year, I found myself thinking the All Blacks are back. And they're winning in different ways than how they have in the past. It's not so much Richie McCaw dominating the ruck. It's not so much that lightning quick ball. Let me tell you, we had some pretty crappy ball to deal with today, but we are winning with our set piece. The scrum is setting a phenomenal platform. The line out functioned well today. We showed patience. We showed game management from Damien McKenzie. We showed a good variety in our kicking game. And when it came time for the kill shot, we pulled the trigger. That is pleasing. Razor has talked about how we've created opportunities all year. That's true. It's been frustrating seeing the All Blacks not finish them. And again, they left plenty of points out there today. But really, when it came down to it, when it came down to the moment to strike, the All Blacks took that opportunity and they landed the killer blow to the solar plexus of this Irish team. This game had a lot of hype. This game was marketed as revenge for the World Cup. Okay, I concede the Irish were a little bit cold, but after having to read all the hype ups this week and hearing everyone seemingly in the Northern Hemisphere predict an Irish win, we're allowed to feel happy about this as All Black fans. This win was crucial. This was the best win of the year. This was promising from the All Blacks. We still have a ton of work to do. We're still not there. We're going to have a tough time replacing Kane at number 7 next year. He showed his worth again today. We're going to need someone like a Peter Larkai to come on and make that spot their own. Or we're going to need Shannon Frizzell at 6, Wallace Satidi at 8, Ardie Savea at 7. That could work too. We're never going to be complacent as All Black spectators, but today was a big hit on the hopium pipe, and it feels good. It feels really good. So who are the key standout players? I'm going to pick a forward, I'm going to pick a back, then I'm going to give you my MVP. My forward is Asafo Amua. He missed one line-out throw, otherwise the line-out looked good. The stats show that. He was fantastic around the field. He came of age. You throw in Cody Taylor, who'll be back soon. You throw in Samasoni Takiaho, who, don't forget, was the flavor of the week. Seemingly the next great All Black hooker. He'll be back next year. Suddenly there is depth in the rake position that we haven't seen in a while, and that's needed with a genuine legend like Dane Cole's gone. We needed some new blood coming through in the hooker ranks. Safo Mua, big find this season. In the backs, you have to give it to Damian McKenzie. Guys, I'm the first one to criticize him in his game management. He stood up today. He did. He was outstanding. He iced his goals. He kicked accurately. And most importantly, he had good chemistry with the players who were chasing those kicks. They seemed to know when the kick was on. At the start of the year, it sometimes seemed like McKenzie would put up a bomb and it would almost catch some of the outside backs by surprise. They seemed much more in sync today. And a good kick chase can make an average kick a great kick. Much more alignment there with the kicking game. He's very good on defense despite his size. You just have to say that he has been outstanding the past 2 weeks for the All Blacks. Now, he's a mercurial player. Maybe there'll be another form dip. But as of this moment, he deserves his flowers. Man of the match, can't argue with that. So who is my MVP of the game? It's not a player. It is the All Blacks scrum. The All Blacks have weaponized this aspect of their set piece at critical times today. They got penalties. Razor Robertson spoke about that. He wanted to get more penalties from the scrum. That happened today. It kept the All Blacks in the game when things were looking a bit dicey, and it actually laid the foundation for a lot of points. The All Black scrum is becoming a deadly weapon. Curious to see how it goes against France next week. That's a very good scrumming side. But for now, you have to say it is back to its monstrous best. Shout out to Razor Robertson too. He's had to endure some tough losses, none tougher than Argentina this year in my opinion. Because look, dropping games to South Africa at home, well, that happens to the best of us, doesn't it? But if the nadir of the season was that loss to Argentina in Wellington, the boys have come a long way since then. And Razor does seem to be learning quickly on the job. And I think the critical thing is he's unlocked the bench. That was the weakness for the All Blacks. It was their Achilles heel. He seems to have turned the corner, found a better balance, and now we're getting impact from those players. That's how the All Blacks are winning games in the second half, just like they used to. That is very pleasing. Hard luck to the Irish. They're a great side. They will be back. But today was not their day. A wonderful win for the All Blacks. What did you guys think? Sound off in the comments. I'm on cloud 9. I will be reading them all day. Let me know what you think. If you do leave a super thanks, meaning that you leave a tip and ask me a question, I will answer it on video next week. Those tips help this channel grow, helps me spend more time making great videos. So I sure would appreciate it if you want to support the channel and do that. Guys, I love you. I'm very happy today. I hope you are too. I'll be back to break down the Springboks game on Sunday. I'll see you guys then. Take it easy. Bye for now.